Okay, we're going to get through this one pretty quickly too. Construction law, liens, and remedies. Most of what you'll need to remember about this unit will be what pertains to residential real estate. If you're building a house, are the things you want to take notice of. But a lot of these things are things that we do in commercial real estate as well when we're dealing with contractors and issues that happen as building and construction is happening. So, good things to know, but again, not a lot of this will ever be on a test, but worth knowing, seriously worth knowing. Okay, we're going to identify the parties involved in construction project, distinguish the most common terms in a construction contract. We're also going to talk about types of construction contracts. We're going to talk about mechanics, liens, and we're going to describe something called a stop notice and bond claims. And some of that, again, is more commercial than residential. So, my son and daughter-in-law are looking at maybe buying a house. The last thing she told me is I can't find anything I really like. I'd really like to go out to Yellow Springs and buy a lot and build a house. I'm like, cool. Good process to go through. You can buy home kits today for $80,000 or $90,000 that are the entire home, but then you got to pay a crew another $100,000 to put it up. But you got to know who you're dealing with. So the owner secures the land or the building. So in that case, they're going to buy their plot of land. They're going to create a design for the project using architects or engineers, and or they're going to buy the house kit from the hardware store. Menards is where I've seen these house kits for sale now. And again, we've got houses in Northside and other places that are Sears homes. Same way. They bought the house kit through the Sears catalog. Neat old houses. Okay, so then the owner secures funding for the construction. Our construction funding is done differently than the regular mortgage on your property. Construction funding is short term because they don't expect the construction process to take 30 years. They want to see the construction literally start and stop within a window like a year or less on a regular house. So you've got to do some construction financing. And then the owner's going to hire a prime contractor. We call it a general contractor. They want a general contractor that's going to be there to babysit the job and hire subs. They want that person to hire the electrician, hire the plumber, hire the glazers, hire the drywall people, so that that person who knows construction knows what they're doing. And the owners may bring in parts and pieces, say, I want to add this to the house, I want to make it look like this. But they generally are letting this general contractor control the process. Right now, I've got a tenant building a salon space building, and the tenant was going to hire a general contractor, and I said, there's only one thing I want you to do when you hire a general. I don't care if they're from Columbus or wherever they're from, but I expect them to have a foreman on the job every single day, because your subcontractor is going to be asked questions, you're paying them direct, and I don't know the answers. It's not my business. So I want to see him on the job every day. They've got a little desk there for him. He lives, I'm trying to think, in Lebanon, Ohio, and he comes down every day. He's there every day, and he calls when subcontractors don't show up, but he's there every day, just like we asked him to do, because they're spending almost $1 million to build this space out. They're trying to do it in a 3-month time frame, and I'm like, you're going to need somebody here that knows what the hell's going on, can answer questions, and make sure things are done quickly, because you're going to have trades on top of each other making this all happen. So that's the general contractor. So there's a contract that they entered into with the general contractor. You can have contracts that are through public owners or private owners. This is a private thing that they're doing. It's not a public piece of property. But public property, when we do public property, we have to put things out for bid. We have to announce bids. We actually have open bid, where bids are brought into a room and they're open, quote, in front of the public, so the public sees everything that's going on. Typically, at that point in time, they're choosing low bidder. But it's very important that the people that are analyzing the bids know you get what you're paying for. If you're subject to choosing low bidder all the time, you need to make sure you're getting the entire project bid. Because if you pick the low bidder, they don't have everything spec'd, done, bid, you can go back to them for fees and fines and make them cover it, but more than likely what will happen is you'll end up paying more to get it done right. So your low bidder really isn't your low bidder after all. So you want to watch that. So the design professionals, we can have architects on the project, And those people will provide various reports and recommendations to the owner. Very often when we start a construction job, we're done with the architects already. The architects design, they gave us blueprints, but once we get to the point where we're starting to build and do work, we're referencing the blueprints, and we may call them now and then, but for the most part, that stuff's already done. That was done before we even applied for a permit, because we needed good drawings to apply for the permit. We need to have drawings that had everything involved in them. Now, there's change orders, there's things that happen. And at a commercial building, one of the things I ask for is once the tenant has built and they're all done building, I want drawings of their as-builts. Not the drawings that they turn to me to look at before they built, but I want as-built drawings that show me actually what they're turning over to me, everything that they've done. Same kind of thing you want to do with residential too. It's good to have as-built drawings of your house. Good to understand the roadmap of how to work on your house in the future. Construction lender provides a construction loan to fund the purchase of the land and or the construction improvements. The insurance companies provide means of insuring risks such as design errors, defective construction, risk of work injuries, risk of damage to the property while it's being built. So, and you want that liability and property insurance running while you're building your project. You have a contracting team. The contractor contract directly with the owners, the prime, again, or general contractor in our market. Prime contractor contracts with subcontractors who usually construct the actual project. The prime contractors are responsible for daily oversight of the construction. They work on the project site is usually performed by subcontractors, but they may choose to be an owner's construction manager. So this guy who's in from Lebanon on the property every day, he's not slinging the drywall and doing things like that. But what I see him doing, he will clean up. He's got some other people in there helping clean up the site, make sure things are done right. He's making sure dumpsters at the property emptied regularly the way they need to be done. He's there to help the subcontractors get their jobs done. I'll see him carry things and do things, but I'm not actually seeing him hammering nails and actually doing the work. But he knows what they're supposed to do. He's been in the business a long time, older gentleman. He knows what their jobs are and how they're supposed to be doing their job. And then the subcontractors provide specialized work. So we have HVAC, we have plumbing, we have electrical, we have drywall, we have the ceiling contractors, we have the fire alarm contractors, sprinkler fitters. There's just the flooring people, the wallpaper people. There's a whole slew of people that are involved in getting it all built and making it all happen. Licensing of contractors. In Kentucky, electricians have to be licensed. In Hamilton County, electricians don't have to be licensed. In Butler County, they are licensed. I'm not sure why that is. It doesn't mean that they're any more qualified or less qualified. It just means that they have to be licensed, which means they had to buy a license. I have never seen anything that says that you have now taken this state test and you passed and now you're a licensed or electrician. It doesn't work that way. But what you want to do is make sure that they have licenses in the areas where they're required to have licenses. Insurance companies want to see licenses, and also to go back and make construction defect claims, you want to have licensed contractors. And the contractors also have to be licensed to file mechanics liens. So it behooves them to be licensed so they can carry out everything they need to do. So again, many states require a contractor to be licensed at all times to recover their materials. An unlicensed contractor is usually unable to record the mechanics lien. And there may be insurance issues. Again, depending upon who your insurance company is. If they're requiring licensed contractors in that market, you want to make sure you're asking for them to get the insurance coverage. Types of construction agreements. We have owners and prime contractors often agree on one of several forms of contract for the construction of commercial buildings. And by the way, when you're doing commercial properties, we have something called AIA contracts. They're contracts written by the Architects Institute, and they're approved. They've been used for a long period of time. And they're lengthy contracts, but they cover lots of little things that you might not think about. And then in the AIA, we have these different things. We have fixed price. Fixed fee includes all contractors' overhead and profit. Most of my bids are fixed price type work. That's what I'm looking at when I'm bidding stuff. We have cost plus. Contractors compensate for all building costs plus an amount for overhead and profit. Today I just turned space over in Dayton to at-home stores. They're building in North Park Center. So we filled our big vacancy that was Elder Bierman with at-home. We did it pretty quickly. Turned the space over to a company called Miller Valentine. Miller Valentine has a very good working relationship with At Home and the people that are doing the job. I imagine Miller Valentine is a cost plus. They've had to turn in bids, and they're going to get compensation over and top the bids to be the general contractor to run the job. So that would be a cost plus kind of quote. Guaranteed maximum price, contractors reimbursed for costs, overhead, and profit up to a predetermined amount. In today's world, there aren't too many vendors that are going to take that one on, because you just never know what is going to happen when you're trying to build. You never know the pre-existing condition of the building and what obstacles you have to overcome, and stuff happens while you're building. So we typically don't see that in our marketplace. Construction defects. Generally arises where there's an imperfection or shortcoming in a construction component, so we can file construction defect lawsuits. And they often, like any contractor perform work on the project, is sued as a defendant in the case. So that means everybody gets sued. If you're a contractor and you did anything at all, you'll get sued. This is part of playing this game, is you're subject to this work and being looked at this way. The owner's implied warranty. This is when the owner provides information. There's something called the Spearn Doctrine. The owner has liability to the construction team for the accuracy of the drawings and specifications of the project. So as the owner, I hired an architect to get things done. Now I'm going to flow back to my architect if there truly is a problem. I'm going back to their E&O insurance. But anything I had my architect create and I've presented to builders and contractors to look at, to use as their baseline documents, they're going to bid based on that. And if they come back in and say, wait a minute, something's wrong, we didn't know about this situation or that situation, this stuff happens, they're coming back to say that's the owner responsibility. That's the Spearn Doctrine. Does not have to be expressly stated in the contract, and the contractor is not responsible for defects in plans and specifications. Again, this is where I'm going to go back to my architect on their E&O insurance. But anything is the owner I supplied or contracted to give to turn over my contractors, they're expecting, I know what I'm doing. I have a basis of knowledge for the building and what it is. There's no damages for delay. This rule permits the contractor to recover only an extension of time and not damages in the event the owner has breached the implied warranty of the contractor. So if the owner has given falsified information, the contractor isn't going to get anything more than just time to complete their job, to let the things get fixed that need to get fixed, and then time to finish. But they're not going to go back and be able to get extra money. They just have to stick with the job and get it done. Minimizing construction defects. Construction teams have developed strategies to minimize defects. They'll do mock-ups, which are very expensive to have done. They're physical models of completed work. But the most of what I'm seeing today is something called BIM. It's Building Information Modeling. They're using CAD systems to do 3D modeling, computerized modeling, where they can basically, on the computer, show you every component of the building through this BIM process. And through BIM, they're checking to make sure work is done properly. They're constantly checking the work as it's going. But it's a whole, again, computer modeling process that they're looking at. Much more detailed than just a CAD drawing. It's a three-dimensional picture of what the building's going to look like. Liens. A lien is an encumbrance on the property that secures the repayment of a debt. So we have specific liens attached to a particular parcel of land only. Mechanics liens. Materials, mechanics men's, both. Materials get delivered to a job. The materials sit on the job, they're meant for that job. They can become what's called a mechanics lien or a materialman's lien that the contractor or supplying company can file against the building property owner, because those were materials and stuff delivered on site for that job. Mechanics liens, same thing. Mechanic has done his job, created whatever they were assigned to do, and they can't get payment on it, then they're going to do these specific liens to attach. As a real estate broker, we can also file liens. The textbook doesn't go through this, but as a real estate broker, we can file liens for our commissions. It's very limited. It's hard to do. It only happens in commercial. You're supposed to do it within 60 days of the transaction. And the last thing we want to do as a realtor broker is file a commercial lien against a property owner, afraid that we're not going to get paid. We'll get a bad reputation. But I had to use that incentive to try to get paid on a deal that went south in Connecticut years ago. And we used it much more prevalent than you realize, but push comes to shove, we were concerned that we'd ever get paid, so we threatened to file a lien. An attorney threatened to file a lien to make sure that we'd be able to get our payment. Again, you've only got a very short, tight window. Ohio's law only lets you do 60 days. And usually, in a commercial transaction, you get paid when a lease is signed. You might get paid 50% when the lease gets signed. It takes 60 days to get the first payment. And then you get paid 60 days after the tenant goes in and pays rent. So you might be 6 months to a year before you get paid your whole commission. So that whole lien law doesn't do you any good. Because by the time you're starting to get your payments, you're already at the end of your lien window. It really needs to be revised to make it really work for commercial brokers the way it should. General liens attach to all the debtor's real or personal property within a jurisdiction. So general liens can also be tax liens. Mechanic liens, again, they're involuntary lien that arises from construction or improvement of real estate. The people that are affected are the property owner's agent who has consent or improvement to work on the property. Leasehold improvements. This is what I'm concerned about as a property manager. Generally, an owner's interest will not be affected by tenants improving a leasehold interest and failing to pay a subcontractor. We actually have a provision in the lease that says the tenant will not allow liens to be placed on the property. And the tenant also has to give us lien waivers for leases from their contractors to show us their contractors have been paid. That's all part of allowing things to be done. We also have something in our leases that said we're going to pay the tenant back some tenant finish costs. When the tenant is taking on all the tenant finish on their own, we'll give them some money back toward tenant finish costs. But again, before we'll give them any of that money back, we want to see these lien waivers. We want to know the contractors know they're in line to be paid, they're close to being paid, but they've already signed off to say they're not going to lien the property. That's all part of our lease. Again, mechanic lien requirements. Direct contract with the owner or somebody authorized, permitted by the owner to enter in this construction contract. They successfully perform the work. They fulfill the procedural requirements of notice and lien recording. So there is notices. There's a whole process that you have to notice people to let them know you're filing a lien. And then they have to timely file a lawsuit to foreclose the lien. So if that sits out there for a couple years, that's not timely. Timely would be 6 months to a year after they file the lien. They get moved forward to actually do the lawsuit to make it happen. Wait too long and it's not going to be any good. The notice has to be served within a certain time after the claimant's work has begun on the project. The liens have to be recorded in the appropriate local recording office. So in Hamilton County, you would record them in Hamilton County. A permitted period of time following completion of the project. And the priority of the mechanics liens, it's called a doctrine of relation back. This is one just little terminology to remember. I'm not sure you're going to see this in your test either, but it's called a doctrine of relation back, that it's like first come, first served. To file the liens is the first person to get paid. So years ago, when the thing on the side of the hill in construction at Kenwood was being built, the contractors filed liens right away, and the mortgage lien was recorded a month later. For some reason, the commercial mortgage company held on to the mortgage a month before they recorded. So the electricians and a couple of the other suppliers, vendors, actually recorded their liens first. So they were given priority to pay first because they recorded before the mortgage recorded. So again, that relation back is the order of and the timeliness of when you're recording what you're doing. Timely foreclosing. After recording the lien, mechanic's lien claimant must enforce their lien rights. And then where there's not enough equity in the property upon foreclosure to pay all the mechanic lien claimants in full, mechanic lien claimants share pro rata in the proceeds resulting from the foreclosure sale of the property. Years ago, there's this condominium complex on the side of the hill on Columbia Parkway, right near Delta. It's a tall Columbia Tower or something I think it's called. I forget what it's on. What street it's on. It's the red brick, tall, 30-story high-rise condo building. When that building was built 20 contractors owned units in that building. They didn't want to own units in that building. They owned units in the building because of the mechanics liens. They were never going to be paid from a foreclosure of the property, so what they did was they took ownership of condo units with the idea that as their condo units sold, they would get the proceeds of their condo units to pay off their debt. So they made a deal to get paid. I remember working at that building. I had a trust customer that bought one of the condos, not from the contractors, but from the association. I remember standing there talking to my boss one day saying, yeah, I could make this my office for a long time because you overlook the Ohio River. It's a pretty view. And I didn't have any problem going there to meet with the decorators and people that were there for our customers. Mechanics liens get released. The lien is effective until it's satisfied, released, or terminated. And typically when this all comes to light is when somebody's trying to finance a property. Whether it's a residential or commercial property, that's when the liens of record come forward through the title search, and we'll make the liens be paid. A mortgage company will make the liens be paid before they'll give you a mortgage on the property. They want to see they want to be first in line. They don't want other lien holders to be first in line. You can take a property, you can buy a property subject to liens that are existing. Just because there are liens doesn't mean you can't buy the property. It might mean you have problems getting it financed. It might mean that you're the one that ultimately can be responsible for getting them paid if you don't have a work through before you sign the contract. A lien may be discharged by the claimant's failure to commence a lien foreclosure lawsuit. If it's been out there long enough, it'll stop. A lien may also be discharged by the claimant's written release. And that's typically what the title companies are doing. When they see a lien on property, they're running around right away to get written releases. Paid or not, they want to get written releases to clear things off. If they need to get paid, they'll help pay them and get the written release. If it's just timely and it hasn't been taken care of, they're still looking for written release. They want to get these things off record. So they're trying to clean up all, dot all the T's, dot all the I's, cross all the T's, get it all taken care of. Stop notices. This is a statutory remedy allowing an unpaid subcontractor material supplier to reach the unexpected construction funds held by the owner. So once they've done it, stop. Stop. You can't, no more. We're not going to get any more materials. Nothing else is going to happen. We've got to refinance. We've got to refund. It's a stop notice. Stop notices can be used on public works projects. The purpose is to protect the claimant in light of the fact that the lender's mortgage lien may have priority over subsequently recorded mechanics liens. So the mortgage company is issuing a stop notice to say, stop, there's no more money being lent, and we're giving you a stop notice to don't put any more supplies into the property, no more work done to the property until we get things straightened out. More funding. Payment and performance bonds. The surety provides a source of payment should one of the parties fail to pay what is due. So we can have something called a payment bond. It guarantees that all claims for labor, material, equipment, and services provided to the project will be paid. Bonds are very often taken out in public works projects. Large public works projects, they do bonds. When I worked at Ohio Casualty, we had a small division, and that's all they did was bonding. Performance bonds. Protects the owner because a surety guarantees payment for the completion of the project should the original contractor fail to complete it. Performance bond. I'm getting ready to, next year, I'll file a performance bond with the city of Frankfort. We want to get the roads that are in our shopping center dedicated to become public roads. Actually, when the project was built 7 years ago, the roads were dedicated. They were just never turned over to the city. To go through the process of turning them over to the city, I have to do a $250,000 defect security bond. We have to post that bond for 2 years. While we post the bond, the city of Frankfort will inspect the property. If they see anything lacking, things that still need to be repaired, they use that $250,000 basically to make repairs for us if we're not making the repairs that they tell us to make. Then when the 2 years are up, we'll get the $250,000 back unless any payments have been pulled from it. The idea behind doing this is it costs a lot of money to create roads. We have a main road that you enter the center. We have a road that goes around the center to the condos on the other side. We have a road that runs up through the center, up and across another 2 roads to the top end of the center. We want those roads to be owned by the city of Frankfort. That was how it was originally intended because we want them to do snow removal. We want them to repave the roads. We want them to do the curbing on the roads. We want them to do the utilities and sidewalks and everything else that's in that road bed. So that's the reason for trying to complete this process of dedicating the roads, literally turning them over to City of Frankfort. Because for us to have to do one small section of the road would be $250,000. So to do a bond for 2 years, hold it, and then be able to turn all the roads over to the city makes all kinds of sense. We want to get there. We'll get there next year. It took me all this year just to figure out the steps to get it done. So it's not an easy process. And that is it. Any questions?